Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the month of January 2023 and our first week in January 2nd through the 8th. So the blog continues for another year on YouTube, and this is a free service that I offer people on YouTube every week. If you have a YouTube account, become a follower and turn on your notifications, and you'll know when I do blogs. And I just did a blog 2 days ago too. If you missed it, it's for the whole year of 2023, the biggest changes in the background. So make sure you hit that one when you get a chance. You get an idea of what's going on in the bigger year, but this one. So it is a free service, guys. So best way to help me out is to please pass the link along to somebody else when you're done, even if you've done it, find someone else again for me, and it's really been helping the blog grow. I really appreciate that. And remember, it's on podcast too. It's on Instagram too. Just look up the Astrological Winds channel. Okay, let's get right into this. So January is really interesting month. We have 4 planets that are going to go direct, that are retrograde to start the year and month, and they're going to go direct. And what that means is by the end of the month, by January 23rd, actually, every planet is going to be going direct. And if you're an astrologer or follow astrology closely, you may be aware that over the last many years, actually, around the beginning of the calendar year, the planets have been lining up like that, where every planet is direct. And when that happens, that is the time to push forward, guys. A lot of people have been frustrated the last couple months, especially since Mars went retrograde. Now we got Mercury retrograde still too, and we still have to deal with 2 weeks or so of that energy of holding us back and not being able to do the things we normally do, or when we do, we don't get the results or the expectations that we normally do or would expect. So this is a time, guys, where it's like we need to do these last couple weeks of reviewing, reprocessing, and looking at everything and becoming aware of the new energies inside us first, knowing what we need to do, and yet going through a lot of challenges still to get there, but kind of seeing what, that by the end of the month, we will be able to go back and push out into the world. And I think a lot of the energy of the world will start to kind of somewhat normalize, whatever that may be. I mean, we're always evolving, right? But things will start to be more normal in the sense of the way you'll start getting your results to your actions and your words. So on January 11th, Eris goes direct. On January 12th, Mars goes direct. Yay, let's have a party, right? January 18th, Mercury goes direct. And then, it really should start. And remember, too, when the planets are changing and they're stationary, their energy is very still strong in that retrograde motion. It's not until they start to move forward a few days later and start to actually pick up speed that they really let go. So those, that week is still going to be a very intense week, that when Mercury and Mars both go direct. And then on the 22nd, Uranus will be the last planet to go direct. And then we'll have all the planets and Eris and Chiron all going direct motion, and it is a time to push. And the one other thing I want to mention for January, and then we'll get into the week, is the one long-term aspect is Saturn sextiling Eris. And I think this will bring us opportunities to change things, out of the chaos, out of all the change that's going on around us. We'll begin to see ways that we can use certain new revelations that we got through that and put it into our projects, put it into our work, put it and build something stable out of the change that's been occurring. So it's a very interesting aspect. It's exact on the 14th. And I think it will bring a lot of stability to projects that, like, prior to that were feeling like, wow, which way are they going? All right, so let's get to the week of January 2nd to 8th, the first week. And so the big thing, there's 4 things I want to talk about this week. The big thing is the full moon in Cancer, and that is next Friday. And that's at 17 degrees in a T-square with Mercury and Chiron involved. So talk about that, but there's a couple other things I want to talk about first. It's also the week of the inferior conjunction of the Sun and Mercury retrograde, and Venus is going into Aquarius this week too. So I'm going to just go chronologically with the 4 things I'm going to really mention. And so starting today, Monday, the Sun is trining the North Node and squaring Chiron. And it's also the day that Venus goes into Aquarius. So quickly, the Sun with the Chiron and North Node is an odd mix, because on a personal level, the Sun Chiron is showing that we're kind of building into finding new places inside ourselves, like that are emerging, but they're kind of edgy still. So it's almost like a new part of ourselves is coming out into the light. And it's usually born of more like painful type of experiences that, things that have, are giving us lessons, things that, when we see them, we may react to them and our energy is still kind of off. It's still a little bit imbalanced because there's this new part of us emerging. Yet the North Node is saying when we're already getting a sense of that drawing other energy in, that it's kind of adjusting some goals maybe of things that we have, and kind of putting us in harmony with people we're supposed to be working with towards those goals. So it's like almost like there's a congruency going on between our goals and our destiny and the people that we're starting to connect with. And it's probably being born out of this new part of our personality that's kind of emerging from the Sun Chiron. So very interesting energy, and that is going to show up again in the full moon. But Venus going into Aquarius, and it's also going to sextile. Remember, Jupiter just went into Aries, so Venus is going to go into Aquarius Monday, today, and then sextile Jupiter in Aries Tuesday, and very, very early in Aries. So Venus in Aquarius is really interesting energy. It wants to bring in more people. You want to expand your relationships. It's into going out and making new connections, making new friends, finding new groups, and especially ones that have similar interests, similar ideals, similar goals than you. The connection is mainly in the mind, for sure. It's intellectual. It's not emotionally deep. It's more about finding values, but also respecting the freedom of each individual and where they fit uniquely. But you get really into finding new friends who are different than you too, like finding people that are come from different backgrounds or different ways of looking at things, and it's kind of attractive. Like it expands our world, so that's, like I said, it wants to bring more in. And what's interesting too is it creates really unique group dynamics, the Venus in Aquarius, where everybody can kind of see their part and can act on that really well if they're conscious of what's going on. So very, creative energy on a group level too. And what's also interesting on the romance, obviously Venus rules our heart and romance. So on the romantic side, it gets you attracted to people who are different than you usually, who are alternative type people in the sense of who you normally are, so they're alternative or different than you on that level. It can be good for being smart about making investments with money, right now, and also the use of technology in our creativity. It's really good for computer art, graphic art, things that we're using some kind of technology to help us create things. So really interesting. And then right away, the sextile to Jupiter. And that is actually one of the most beneficial aspects there is, because we have the two beneficial planets, Venus and Jupiter, and together in a beneficial aspect of the sextile, which is, in general, it makes us feel good. It's just something where we feel good and we're putting out that feel good energy. So it brings in other people and they also are reacting that way too. So we give opportunities to one another. We can even get financial opportunities from one another. So we bring benefits to one another basically. But it's definitely a very harmonious energy. It's very optimistic. It's very positive. It's about spreading a positive vibration is a good way to say it. It's definitely into being with its friends too. That's where it really, likes to put that energy, but it is very open and tolerant of others and bringing in more too and learning from relationships and others. Okay, and then I wanted to just jump forward to, let's see, it's on Saturday. Yeah, there's the exact Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde. So it's the second conjunction, and it's what we call the middle conjunction or the inferior conjunction of those two planets. And so this is a time where the Mercury retrograde cycle is in its most within internal part. And so for me, I've noticed over many years of watching astrology, this is the time where the Mercury retrograde, where people are the most quiet, uncommunicative, because there's a lot of internal talk going on. And it's kind of almost like a flipping the page into a new chapter or a new part where there is a new beginning, but it's all kind of mainly inside going on first. So it's very subjective energy. It's very married to our own experiences of life and how we process life. And, normally we like to converse with this, but like I said, with the inferior conjunction, a lot of the conversing is going on inside. And it's giving us ideas about how we want to start or restart. Here we are again with Mercury retrograde, everything retro, retro, right? Restart things, right? So it gives us that kind of ground level inside starting point that before we even bring it outside. And what's interesting is both the Sun and Mercury will be trining Uranus on the weekend too. So what does that mean? There is a lot of ingenious new revelations going inside all of us. A lot of insights, a lot of perceptions that are very, very forward thinking and evolutionary and can help us to change and bring a lot of new excitement into our life, bring a lot of new energy into our life, new things to focus on, the ability to use technology and science and the occult and all these kinds of different things, different knowledge and higher learning that we've been exposed to, maybe through others or even through our own study, and put them into our lives now, to really use them and get them into our lives and have them going in a flow. So very interesting new starting point with the inferior conjunction of Mercury retrograde to the sun, because it's an inner one, but that's where we have to start first. And like I said, Mercury will go direct, it'll have another conjunction, and we'll have all those other planets going direct. So you see what I mean? Like it's kind of gonna bring that stuff out at the end of the month, but there's a place where it has to begin inside first. Like I said, it's almost like a turning of a page. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about is the full moon in Cancer. And that is on Friday, and it's at 17 degrees. So that's our critical degrees that, if you have planets in that zone, 16, 17, 18, especially cardinal planets, those are the ones that are going to be getting hit by this full moon in your chart. But this full moon's get pretty challenging. It's not only opposite the sun, but it's also opposite that Mercury retrograde that we were just talking about. The sun and Mercury retrograde are conjunct, so it's obviously opposite Mercury retrograde too, and in a T-square with Chiron, and also in a sextile with Uranus. So it's interesting. The moon in Cancer needs to, have an emotional connection with things and to have stability. It needs to, feel safe emotionally. And so, obviously when it's a full moon, there's a challenge to that, Cancer is the sign that the moon rules. So it's the sign that's most like the moon. The moon is all about our emotions, and Cancer is the sign that's mostly about our emotions. So, when we're feeling good, and we're in touch with them and we're feeling good and we're getting the nurturing we need, things like the love we need, even the things like food and shelter and health care that we need, Cancer feels good. And it's a lot about our family too. Cancer is about our family and home. We want stability there first. And when we do, we can expand that. We feel safe enough that we can bring expansion into our family and expansion into our home. And it's very much connected with the past and our heritage. Cardinal signs are very connected with the past and knowing what works. And when the Cancer moon is not getting what it wants, it can fall into a very much using manipulation, emotional manipulation to get what it wants from other people. And therefore that's the negative side, because many times that can actually, have people want to actually separate themselves, and they're feeling like, they're being like smothered or restricted by someone who's in a negative space, basically because they're feeling insecure. They're not feeling like they're getting the emotional support and the basic resources they need. So that's the danger of that. And then of course, when we have a full moon, it's the moon opposite the sun, which means the sun is in Capricorn over at the other side. And Capricorn's all about not being emotional. So you can see why these guys are in opposition with one another. Capricorn's like, listen, put a cap on the emotional stuff and get practical and real and serious, ground yourself. It's the earth sign versus the water sign in the yin part of the energy here. And so, it's the tension is like, just like Capricorn saying, hey, don't let emotions get in the way of the decision-making processes and what we're doing and what we know works, and like, and like pretty much like put a cap on it, like I said, and get it under control. So there's, trying to find that right balance is what the full moon in Cancer is always about. Like, and it's trying to find, where do we balance those two things so that we're not going too far and like manipulating people or being, or totally squashing the emotions and on one side, or we're being so emotional on the other side that, we're not, we're losing touch with reality. So also opposite Mercury retrograde. Now, interesting enough, the ruler of this full moon is the moon itself. So it's very pure, it's unencumbered by the rulership of another planet's energy. And with the moon, with the opposite Mercury retrograde, once again, it's going to be a lot of inner conversation going on, and it's going, feeling like trying to make decisions, but it really having a difficult time doing that. Like the emotions are very mixed up in the decision-making process, and they may not be feeling very secure right now. The past and worries and fears may be interfering with the normal decision-making process right now. And so so there's a lot of like internal talk once again going on during this, trying to decide what is the right thing to do, and sometimes making, so what's that showing too is like with the square to Chiron is that it's going to be very difficult at times not to make irrational kinds of decisions during this full moon that are going to hurt us, once again throw us off balance, kind of like get the mind puzzled and kind of like that, and and get like the emotions stirred up, sensitive, get the and then once again feeling that same thing I talked about early in the blog about just feeling our personality. There's a new part of us coming out, and it's very sensitive. It's like a chick breaking out of an egg, part of that personality, and so like there's a lot of things that are a painful experience to go through. It's a birthing process. And so the Chiron, in that square is showing, like we can really end up hurting ourselves if we emotionally overreact to the Cancer moon, or if we try to control emotions too much from the Capricorn sun side. Now, the one good thing about, or I shouldn't say the one good thing, one of the good things and the best thing, let's just say the best thing about this full moon is the sextile to Uranus. It's a very much, again, like seeing that there are getting new insights, new perceptions that are really exciting, actually, that are really like, wow, this is eliciting a change I want to welcome in. It's stimulating me. It's bringing a lot of excitement into my life, but and I'm really stoked about it, and like, making like maybe electric new connections with people, or just really stimulating new knowledge that you gain somehow, and then bringing it in, and what does that mean to you, and getting this like excitement about life. And so despite all this, it's showing once again that as we're going through these processes with the Chiron and the full moon, the Cancer Capricorn axis, that we're getting insights again about how we can change things. And it feels good. It's just that it's like the timing isn't external yet. It's still inside here. And so it's interesting. You guys notice that's kind of almost like a theme for the week, is like we've been all going through a lot of probably very interestingly tough, strong issues. Things aren't working out the way they normally are with the Mars retrograde, now Mercury retrograde on top of it. but yet there seems to be, it's showing us things inside us, giving us these insights that are throwing us off balance, but also are bringing us to a new place inside where we're ready to turn a page. And with this new information and new stuff, new ideas, new thoughts, new parts of a personality emerging, that we can start to bring, figure out how we're going to bring that out into the world. And so, like, there's an excitement too to it. It's almost like knowing we have to go through these hard times in order to get to see the light at the end of the tunnel, So it's like, the lily pad coming up to the surface of the water, and flowering on top. So there's a lot of like dark, murky water, and eventually comes up and the lotus opens up, right? So that is where I think this week's energy is in general. And if we try to force things still, it's going to be in the outer world. It's going to be a little difficult still the first couple weeks or so this month. But if we use it to do that thing, review, reprocess, renew, reignite, then I think we're using the energy correctly to align ourselves with when all the planets go direct at the end of the month, and the energy will shift and start to externalize. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free service. I love sharing this stuff with you guys. And I would love if you would now find someone else to share it with. I know you guys have already done it. I know that there's someone else you haven't shared it with yet, and I understand they may not be interested, but let them make that choice if you think it's someone who might even be so. It's on YouTube, the Astrological Winds channel, so if you have a YouTube account, please become a follower. Once you do, turn on your notifications, and you'll know whenever I post a blog. And remember, I did just do a blog on the 2023 year, so go back one and you'll find that. And if you want to listen to what I have to say about the year 2023 in a general way, check that one out. The blog is still mainly me talking to the camera, so there's really no reason to see the video or be attached to watching it. Therefore, it is available also on podcasts. It's put out through Buzzsprout, and they have it distributed to over like 20 different podcasts have picked it up. It's starting to go into the top 50% of podcasts every week. So podcasts are great, guys, because you can do other stuff. Like you can be jogging or, doing your yoga or, driving in your car to work and be listening to podcasts instead of having to be stuck looking at me. Also available on Instagram, and become a follower, just Astrological Winds channel. And I do post extra stuff on there about certain days each week, not video or audio, just something you can read. So little nuggets that you're missing if you're not doing that. Or you can friend me on Facebook, Matthew with 2 T's, Lawton, Lauten. Remember, I really use that for astrology. I don't need business offers from, hypercurrency. I don't need personal relationship offers or anything like that through my Facebook. Thank you very much. But if you want to friend me, it is a private account, and, you're welcome to friend me. That's mainly what it's used for. And I do post the link there too. All right. Otherwise, the best way you guys can support me otherwise is I've been a professional astrologer for 21 years now, and do readings all the time. And I would love to do yours too. If you've never had a really good birth chart reading, or, trying to figure it out for yourself, it can be a very enlightening experience, once in a lifetime changing experience for you. Your chart, you never leave your chart. your natal chart. So it's good to know what the energy is that you're working with in your life and kind of become more harmonious with that if you want to. And then same with predictive. Every year around your birthday, I recommend getting a predictive reading, or at the beginning of the year around now. It's the same as the weather report I give each month like this, except it's just for you for a year, because every year the planets are hitting your chart in a different way, and they're going to bring up different issues, and it's always good to know that this is a natural process and how you can work with it and strengthen yourself and know when it's going to end, even when things are going to change. Relationship charts, people who just met, what brought you together, people who have been together for a long time, what your relationship is going through now. Children's charts, if you have a newborn or you're having trouble with any one of your kids, need to know how to maybe better relate to them, what some of the big events they're going to be facing in their life. We can look at that. Relocation and astrocartography, a lot of people are interested in that. Thinking about moving somewhere else, we can look and see how your chart's going to align for that place, or how your chart aligns throughout the world, and where you can move to certain planetary lines that may be more congruent with what you're trying to do in life these days. Election charts for people who need to know the best timing for an event, especially important events. If you're getting into some big deal, business, marriage, something like that, you want to definitely get the timing on your side if you can. It's be funny not to use the energy to make it work better for you when it's available. And the same, I also can do Hori if you have a burning question that's really emotionally chewing you up, you can't make a decision about. A lot of times we can do a chart and take a look and see what the chart says, maybe help you make the decision. Big star readings too. They're for people with deeper soul purpose. If you really want to see, the chains of life and stuff, and what's going on really behind things, that can be a really deep esoteric type reading. Also have classes available for beginners. They're $25 a class, or $20 if you're a student. They're on Dropbox. Just contact me. Any of these services through my email, mattHue823@gmail.com, or you can hit me on the comments, but just remember to look back on the comments for my answers. Also, if you have a group that needs a lecture or a class or question and answer session on astrology, mini readings for an event, entertainment, that kind of thing, once again, just drop me an email, mattHue823@gmail.com. All right, guys. Very interesting times. Hang in there. The first couple weeks of this month is about and then we'll be ready to push forward by the end of the month. So I will see you guys all next week, and we'll do a weekly for next week. It'll be the 9th through the 15th. All right. Take care until then, and Happy New Year to everyone. And may it be prosperous and healthy for you all.